going to be seeing that it's and making sure that it's fit into the appropriate place. And if there's a hang or delay in that automated test running in, let's say, in staging or whatever before it is going there, you need to understand how those things are wired and possibly know the right contact people to say, hey, look, looks like your test is failing, and you need to unblock this thing.
Absolutely.
Yep. So with that, I think we're going to move to automated .NET unit tests.
Great. So we're going to actually do a lot of fun stuff, because I think we actually are going to do 3 demos back to back here real quick.
There we go. Yeah, automated .NET unit test, automated Java Maven test.
Yep.
And then the SonarQube with the Java application.
So yeah, getting into technical debt and how we can manage that using our build system as well. So,
yep.
So we're going to switch over to my demo machine. And the build we ran earlier actually had test results as a part of that build. You'll remember that I checked the box saying I'd like you to continue with my build even if my tests fail. I did that intentionally because if I click on this link here, what it's going to do is it's going to take me to what we call our test hub. And our test hub is going to show me the results of that test run from that previous build. And as you can see very quickly, I can show one of them passed, one of them failed. And this is great, and this is all .NET, and we can give you code coverage and a lot of cool metrics. But you would expect that from Microsoft. It's a .NET product running on a .NET platform. We'd expect to have this type of rich experience. But what I'm going to show you is how quickly we can turn this exact same experience on for your Java developers as well. Not only taking their JUnit tests and running them and being able to surface them in this hub for you, but also be able to go back in and even wire in SonarQube.
So let me just kind of clarify, though.
Sure.
Just something really foundational for folks. How is this test now automated versus manual, and how does that work, right? I mean, this is a very basic test. Just to, I mean, for people who may not be familiar, I mean, a dev person's probably got it, but maybe just,
Absolutely. So a unit test is actually code written right alongside the code in which you're trying to develop. And the way that we were able to execute it is we were actually using this little task here. So remember when we first started, I used a template. And that template had 4 different tasks in it, one of which was going to compile our code, the other which was going to attempt to go ahead and run it. Well, we were able to get away with this because by convention, when we create a test project as part of our solution, it usually has the word test somewhere in it. And our task is smart enough to say, go find any assembly that has the word test in it and assume it's a test project and go try to run test out of it. So the way that we got it automated was a developer literally sat down inside of Visual Studio, created a project, and coded this particular test. This test called into the other DLL, exercise some piece of it, and then returns a true or false value, letting you know if it passed.
Okay, so if they were to do that test manually, they would actually just pull up Visual Studio,
correct,
run into the Test Explorer, and say run that test.
Exactly.
And just because it was already a part of this project, which you have checked into source code control, now it's able to automatically pick up and just run it.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Thank you. Yeah.
Oh no, absolutely. And the same is this. It's the exact same for the Java guys. The Java guys are going to go inside of Eclipse or their IDE of choice. They're going to start writing some JUnit tests that live alongside the project in which they're testing. They're going to check that all into source control, and using Maven, we're going to go execute those tests. And we're going to do something a little bit more fun for our Java side as well, because we want to go back to the whole cross-plat and being able to interact with other services. So what we're going to do, instead of downloading the code like we did in the first module and then re-uploading it into our own private repository, we're going to pull code directly from GitHub without having to put it anywhere else. So I'm going to return to GitHub here really quick. And I'm just going to show you around how we're going to get to the code that we need to. In the Dark Warrior account here, you'll also see that I have a project tracker application. If you've ever seen me present at TechEd or Ignite or Build, I use this people tracker application quite often. So you'll get to see that project or go play with it yourself if you'd like to, because it's just here up in GitHub. Well, this project here called Project Tracker happens to be a Java application with a POM file in it. Now, to connect your GitHub to your VSO account, you need to create something called an access token. So I'm not going to assume you know how to do that, because the first time I tried, I didn't know, and I kind of wished it was easier to find out. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to simply sign into GitHub here and show you how you'll be able to create one of these access tokens, which are required to tie your GitHub to our build system. So I'm going to just log in here quick. Dark Warrior. I do not want to store that. And then from here, you're going to use your own little person icon at the top, go to settings, and then from here, you're going to be able to create personal access tokens. Now, I've already created one, but all you would do is simply say generate new token, give the token a name, and it's very important at this step that you actually use the admin repo hook. This is the one that's going to allow us to wire continuous integration from GitHub check-ins, or commits as they would be in Git, all the way back down into our build system and trigger a build automatically. Now I've already gone through that exercise, so now back here on our build system I can say I'd like to create a new build. And we don't have a template today for a Maven build per se, but we will be able to add your own templates here as well. But so what we're going to do is we're just simply start with an empty one. And then we're going to add a new step. And the step that we're going to add is the Maven step. And all I have to do now is navigate down to my POM file. Oh, excuse me, I missed a step here. Let's go to my repository and let's tell them we're actually going to be using GitHub. When you generate that access token, it's going to generate this token that you can then use and provide. And I believe I've already copied that to my clipboard here. So I should be able to, for some reason it's not letting me do that here. Let's see what's going on. Well, that's interesting. We change VSO quite often. It's actually changed since the last time I tried this last night. So we're going to go ahead and use a personal access token here. We're going to copy what's on my clipboard. And connection, we're just going to say GitHub. Let's say OK. And let's see if this is actually going to work the way I want it to, because the last time I did this, I did not do it this way. This is very interesting. So let's go back. And we're going to refresh this. And that is what I want. And here we go. We now have access to all of my projects that are inside of GitHub. We want to do the project tracker application. And we are just going to use the master branch. And now we should be able to go back here and use this to navigate to our POM file. With that set, I can now simply save this. And we're going to save this one as Java. And then we're going to go ahead and queue this particular build once it's saved. And again, I didn't have to install anything. Our hosted agents are able to build the Java code for you. So I don't have to go stand up an agent. I could have used either of the agents that David and I set up for you in the previous module. But I'm just going to go ahead and let this one run on the hosted module. Now, while this is building in the background, we'll come back and we'll look at the output of this build and see that the JUnit test actually did execute the way that we wanted it to. I'm going to take you and talk to you about SonarQube. We're not doing an MVA on SonarQube, but SonarQube is a very popular product that allows you to be able to view the technical debt in an application that you have. And we can actually execute SonarQube for you during our builds, especially with our Maven projects. It's actually already supported. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to take you to a pre-configured build definition and show you exactly what you have to do to allow you to publish your changes in your technical debt to SonarQube. So I've already set up SonarQube. I blog at donovanbrown.com. There is a detailed blog there that tells you exactly how to install and build your own SonarQube and walk you through this particular build definition that I'm about to go through with you. So I don't want to bore you with details that you can go and find out for yourself there as well. So here we go. In another VSO that I have set up, I have a very similar task to the one I just showed you. It's just called Maven. And this is called my SonarQube build. And what you'll notice is that the goal originally was just package. And I simply added sonar. And then I added some parameters or options that I needed to pass in so that it can locate my SonarQube in the cloud. And it can actually connect to the database to then be able to send in the information. Now what you'll notice here is that this format that we're using here, where I have a question mark, a $, and then some value in between parentheses, that is me defining a variable or using a variable in this particular point. If I go back to my variables tab, you'll see that I've defined these different variables that I wanted to use in that particular command. I have one that points to my SonarQube URL, which is the SonarQube I stood up in Azure, and the blog post will tell you exactly how to do that. Here's the JDBC connection that I need to be able to get to the database that I need to write my results to. And then obviously I have my username and my password, which I've safely encrypted here so that you cannot see it. And it's also encrypted on disk, right? You don't have to think that if I were to go and somehow compromise the database and do a select star that I would be able to see these passwords. All the information that you encrypt here in the user interface is also encrypted on disk as well. So after I do that, when I come back to my build, I simply passed in this parameter. Again, this is all explained in the blog post. And I simply queued this particular build. And in doing so, I was then popped over to my, I can pop over, let me correct that. You don't automatically end up here. But we're working on ways for you to be able to surface this information through our build system. And as you can see, all my SonarQube information has been collected for me in our build. So by now, I think I've talked long enough to see that our Maven build that we just created a moment ago has completed. And if I were to go back to our dashboard for this particular build, I'm going to refresh my test results. And as you can see, I have my JUnit test results that I just ran in my build right here on my dashboard, and I can go to the exact same hub that I went to before for my .NET code and see the output of my JUnit code as well. So you can run tests through a multitude of different test engines, and I can show you that list here really quickly as well. If we were to go back in and modify this, not only can I run all of my JUnit tests out of Maven, if I had another test system that I wanted to go through, you can see there's a whole series of load tests that I can now instrument. So the test that David was talking about, that the infrastructure or the ops guy is going to be interested in running, we can actually run those load tests during our build if we're able to target an environment that is already stood up. We have the ability to run in a Xamarin Test Cloud.